Welcome to our quick demonstration of the Immuta apps. So we're going to start with the Immuta Marketplace app. And this is where you publish data products, data consumers discover those data products, request access to them, and are approved, and that access is provisioned. And then we're also going to spend a little bit of time talking about the Data Access Governance app, which has actually existed for quite a while. For Immuta, whereas the marketplace builds on top of it and is a newer application that we've recently released. You'll notice you can brand the marketplace with your own logo here. I'm using Initech to give it the look and feel of your company, because this is where the majority of your users will live, such as your data consumers, the people publishing data products, the people doing approvals to data products, and then the users that are managing your core access control policies, like who should have upfront or birthright access to certain tables or columns or rows, happens in the Data Access Governance app. Okay, so let me show. First thing is I'm going to publish a data product. And when we say data product, we mean highly curated data products that you want to share internally with your organization. And so all the upfront data engineering has already occurred here. And this is the step where you're now publishing this data product to make it public and requestable. Immuta supports domains. These domains can be configured in the Data Access Governance app. So I have permission to publish from these domains. I'm going to pick this finance domain, and then I'm going to pick the following two data sources to publish as part of this data product. I could certainly select more. I happen to be showing just Databricks and Snowflake tables here, or they could be views. We, of course, support more than that. And I'm purposely selecting tables from each so I can show how they are provisioned in both places once access is approved. So I've selected the data sources for my data product. I'm going to call this TPS reports. Need this for the weekly reports. You'd probably want a better description. Obviously, you can assign a subject matter expert. We're going to say Chris is the subject matter expert for the TPS reports. This is where the consumers can ask questions about the data product. And importantly, you can set a request policy. So the first question is, do you want to require approval for access to this data product? I can select no, and if I select no and give a reason, then whenever someone's requests access to this data product, they're just going to be automatically granted access. There's no human in the loop. More often than not, you probably want a human in the loop, and in this case, I've assigned users with governance or managed data product permission to do that approval. You can also ask the data consumers what a question that you want to have answered, or multiple questions, so you understand why they want access. And then you can also associate a data use agreement. You can create a new one or use one that already exists, and the user, when requesting access, will need to agree to this. So I'm going to go ahead and publish this TPS reports data product. And now I'm going to pull up a new user. So this is Ruby. She's a data consumer. You can see she can't publish data products. That button isn't there for her. And she wants to use TPS reports data product. So she finds that data product. The first thing I want to point out is that when she looks at the data sources contained by this data product, she can see her current status. And this is checking in with the Immuta Data Access Governance app on what her current status is. She has no current access to this. So this is saying, hey, if you're approved, you're going to get access to this. So I'm going to go ahead. And by the way, she could look at the data use agreement. She can see there's no other members to this TPS reports, clearly, because we just created it. So I'm going to have her request access. She can request for herself or on behalf of typically a system account. I'm just going to have requests on behalf of herself. I need this for my weekly reporting, and she can agree to the data use agreement. Once she does those two things, she can submit the request. So now the request is submitted. Before I actually go and approve that request, I want to show that Ruby cannot query these tables yet in Databricks. So if we run this query in Databricks, credit scores was one of the tables in that data product. And you're going to get an insufficient privileges error here. And then similarly, if she tries to query that customer transactions table, which was in Snowflake, she's also going to get a not authorized. So let me go over here and go to my access request menu. There's one here, there's a tab here in the data source. There's also this access request menu button here too. So you can see Ruby's requested TPS reports. You can see her answer to the question. I can see Ruby's existing access, so this helps me make an informed decision about if I should give her access or not. I can see that she's agreed to the data use agreement. I can read it myself if I'd like, and I'm going to go ahead and approve this request. And I need to say why. Ruby needs this for her reports, and I'm going to go ahead and approve that. Okay, so now Ruby's approved. If I come back over here and run these queries, or actually if I just want to show this first, that she has this pending request. If I refresh the marketplace, her access is approved. And this is where most tools stop, right? You kind of window shop. You got access, but now this submits a ticket somewhere and some admin needs to do a grant. That is not the case with Immuta's marketplace because it interacts with the Immuta governance app. It actually creates policy to give you access. So now if I rerun this query where Ruby was blocked before, she's now able to see the credit scores. And similarly, if I query the customer transactions table, which is part of this data product, I'm able to see that as well in Snowflake. Okay, so now we're going to switch to the data access governance app. You'll notice both these tables contain a social security number column. So maybe that's bad. Maybe it's bad that someone's querying that social security number column. So the first thing I want to show is we can go to audit and I can run a filter on actions. So let's look at queries that have been run. And we see this query on the customer transaction table, and we can see that it queried the social security number column. And we can also see we've got some tags on here, discovered US and discovered social security number. What these are is Immuta is able to run sensitive data discovery or data discovery in general. You can configure this to your own custom data types, but we have some that come shipped out of the box. And I can immediately see that things tagged social security number, who's querying those. So I might want to build a rule to restrict access to social security numbers. So one thing I can do is very coarse access. So I could build a policy that's what we call subscription policy, which is a table grant. So I could say something like HR SSN access. We'll call this policy. And we're going to only allow people that are members of group human resources to access on data sources with columns tagged. Let's spell it out. So we're saying, hey, if you're a member of group human resources, you're going to get access to tables tagged social security number. And critically, I'm going to leave this selected as always required, meaning that you have to be in human resources to gain access to tables with columns tagged social security number. So I'm just going to go ahead and activate this. The important part is that Ruby is not in the human resources group. So if I come back here to Marketplace and click on this, you'll notice that credit scores and customer transactions now says access prevented because Ruby is not part of that HR group. And in fact, if I went back here and re-query this data, it's going to show that she can no longer query it in both places. The point being that the data access governance policies that you put in place can be enforced in combination with your marketplace policies. When I created that policy, had I not selected always required, then it would have still let Ruby in once she was approved for the data product. But since I said HR is required to have access to anything with social security number, that is why I blocked her. So I'm actually going to go ahead and stage this policy. So that's going to turn it off. If I come back here to Ruby and refresh this, we'll see that she has current access again, because again, she was approved and I removed that policy that said HR had to have access. And just to run this again, you'll be able to see that she can see the table again. So the reason I turned it off is let's do a more granular policy. So I could actually mask social security number instead. And that I can do that in the data access governance app with a data policy. And this is a more fine-grained policy that will carry through to the data product. So I'm going to say mask SSN. So we're going to mask columns tagged social security number. I'm just going to use a constant redacted. And I'm just going to apply this to everyone. I could add exceptions to this policy. And we already filled in this part where we want to apply it where columns are tagged social security number. And then I can activate this. This is going to apply to 16 out of 39 of my data sources. So we went ahead and turned that on. The social security number will be masked with redacted once this pushes out. So the data access governance app pushes out the policy. We got the social security number redacted now in Snowflake. Just to summarize what we covered real quick, we were able to publish a data product, the TPS reports. The user was able to request access and have that access, once it was granted, actually be provisioned in the data platform and query it. And then we used Immuta tagging and audit to discover that there were some queries happening that we didn't like against the security number. And so we did a coarse grain access where we restricted to that table to HR, but then we decided to do something more finer grain and do the column masking. And that, of course, was reflected in the data product tables. So that's a quick demonstration of how the two Immuta applications interact with each other and how you use them in tandem to manage access control to your data. Thanks for watching.